The Galactic Military Academy's training grounds stretched across 3 kilometers of reinforced terrain, designed to withstand everything from plasma artillery to gravitational anomalies. Commander Kalen stood at the observation deck, reviewing tactical reports from the morning's exercises. His uniform bore the insignia of 12 successful campaigns, and his reputation as an uncompromising strategist was known across 4 sectors. Below him, the newest batch of recruits ran through standard combat drills. Among them were the VRYNN Cubs, 5 young aliens whose species had recently joined the coalition. Their fur rippled with nervous energy as they attempted to keep formation. Vash, their squad leader, barked instructions in the clicking language of their homeworld, but the Cubs kept breaking rank to investigate everything around them. "Hopeless," muttered Lieutenant Thrace beside Kalen. "They have the attention span of nebula dust." Kalen said nothing. He had seen the VRYNN adults in battle. They were formidable warriors once matured, with reflexes that made most species look sluggish. But their young were notoriously difficult to train. Every instructor who had attempted to work with VRYNN Cubs had requested reassignment within a week. The human logistics officer, a young woman named Park, approached with a datapad. "Sir, the supply delivery includes some materials that weren't requisitioned. Should I send them back?" "What materials?" "Cardboard boxes. About 50 of them. Different sizes. The manifest says they were used as packing material for the medical equipment." Kalen waved dismissively. "Recycle them." Park hesitated. "Actually, sir, I was thinking, could I give some to the VRYNN Cubs? For enrichment." "Enrichment?" Lieutenant Thrace laughed. "This is a military academy, not a daycare." But Kalen studied Park's expression. She had worked with the human special forces before transferring to logistics. Her record showed exceptional tactical creativity. "Explain." "The Cubs are struggling because they're young and curious. Their instincts are to explore and play. Fighting against that is inefficient. But if we redirect those instincts..." She pulled up footage on her datapad showing human children playing with cardboard boxes, transforming them into forts, vehicles, and imaginary worlds. Humans discovered long ago that simple materials can be powerful learning tools. Thrace shook his head. "We're training soldiers, not entertaining children." "With respect, sir," Park said, "we're training children who will become soldiers. There's a difference." Kalen considered this. The VRYNN Cubs had been at the academy for 3 weeks with minimal progress. Traditional methods were failing, and the coalition desperately needed VRYNN warriors. Their homeworld sat on a strategic border, and their alliance was crucial. "Give them the boxes," Kalen decided. "We will observe." 20 minutes later, Park arrived at the training ground with a hover cart loaded with cardboard boxes. The moment the VRYNN Cubs spotted them, their ears perked up. Vash tried to maintain discipline, but even the young leader couldn't hide his curiosity. "These are for tactical training," Park announced, keeping her expression serious. "You will use these materials to complete your objectives." She didn't give them specific instructions. She simply left the boxes and walked away. What happened next would become legendary in military academy history. The Cubs descended on the boxes with the enthusiasm of a Category 5 storm. Within minutes, they had torn into the cardboard, scattered pieces everywhere, and begun building. But they weren't just playing. They were creating. Vash organized his team with sudden clarity. 2 Cubs constructed walls. Another fashioned what looked like a watchtower. The smallest cub began making what could only be described as camouflage netting from shredded cardboard strips. Kalen watched from the observation deck, his tactical mind recognizing what he was seeing. "They're building a fortification." Park smiled. "And learning teamwork, resource management, and spatial reasoning. All while thinking they're just playing." Over the next hour, the cardboard fort grew more sophisticated. The Cubs incorporated principles they had failed to grasp in formal lessons. Overlapping fields of fire, multiple exit points, concealment versus cover. They argued, collaborated, and problem-solved with an intensity they had never shown in standard drills. Then Vash had an idea that changed everything. The young VRYNN leader gathered his team and whispered something. 4 Cubs nodded enthusiastically. They began modifying their fort, adding a new section that jutted out toward the command building. They worked with urgent purpose, their small hands moving with surprising precision. "What are they doing now?" Lieutenant Thrace asked. That Park's grin widened. "I think they're planning something." 10 minutes later, Vash emerged from the fort carrying a cardboard tube like a telescope. He surveyed the command building, then ducked back inside. The cubs worked furiously on something hidden from view. Then they struck out a cardboard projectile, weighted with training foam and launched from an improvised catapult, sailed through the air and landed directly at the observation deck entrance. Attached to it was a message written in crude coalition standard. Commander Kalen is now our prisoner. Surrender accepted. Silence filled the observation deck. Then Kalen did something no one expected. He laughed. It started as a chuckle but grew into genuine amusement. When was the last time anyone had shown such tactical audacity? The Cubs had assessed their environment, identified the command structure, and launched a preemptive strike using improvised materials. They captured me with a cardboard box and foam, Kalen said, still smiling. In 5 minutes, they demonstrated more tactical thinking than they have in 3 weeks. He stood and walked toward the exit. Lieutenant Thrace called after him. Sir, where are you going? To negotiate my release, obviously. I am a prisoner now. Kalen descended to the training ground and approached the cardboard fort. The Cubs watched him with wide eyes, uncertain if they had gone too far. Vash stepped forward, trembling slightly. We were playing, the young Vryn said. You were training, Kalen corrected. And you succeeded. He knelt to their level. You identified an objective, used available resources creatively, and executed a coordinated assault. These are the foundations of military strategy. Vash's ears perked up. Really? Really? Kalen examined their fort. Though your western wall has a structural weakness, and your catapult's angle could be optimized for greater range. For the next hour, the commander of the Galactic Military Academy sat in the dirt with 5 Vryn Cubs, discussing fortification design and projectile physics. Park watched from a distance, knowing she had witnessed something important. When Kalen finally returned to the command building, he immediately drafted new training protocols. The cardboard boxes became standard equipment. Other species' young recruits received similar enrichment materials tailored to their developmental needs. The Vryn Cubs' performance improved dramatically. Within 2 months, they were outperforming many adult recruits in tactical exercises. Vash would eventually become one of the coalition's most respected strategic officers, and whenever anyone asked Commander Kalen about his teaching philosophy, he would smile and say, sometimes the best weapon is a cardboard box and the wisdom to let soldiers be who they are. The lesson spread throughout the coalition military. Rigidity was not strength. Adaptation was not weakness. And sometimes, the most unconventional approach was the most effective. All because 5 Cubs got a box, and a human understood that play was just another word for learning.